Hello, and welcome to
Hart and Hustle.
I'm the Hart.
I'm the Hustle.
And we're talking Texas teams and Texas talents around the Lone Star State.
Yeah,
here
still
every
Lone Star
Thursday.
State. Yeah.
Every Thursday, talking some really, really good talent. You can see here today, we're going to be highlighting my alma mater, the Mean Green. And we're staying in Denton to talk about the Denton Guyer Wildcats. So
yeah, there's not an
show about Denton.
There's not an immediate connection to the recruiting list for 2025, but
it makes sense.
North Texas does have a Denton Guyer alum on the roster that I think is really good. Landon Sides, wide receiver.
Sides.
Yeah, and I hear really good things from the coaching staff over there about his development, and he was a real fun player to watch in high school. Of course, he was Jackson Arnold's go-to
guy when Jackson Arnold was there.
I bet Arnold wishes he had him up at OU right now because their wide receiver core has
They're all
been
hurt.
Completely decimated.
They're all hurt right now.
Right.
So, yeah, I bet he wishes that his favorite target had followed him up there to Norman. But Week 9, the Texas high school football season already. It's already here, and this is a massive, massive week.
Playoffs
for high
are
school
coming,
football.
but this is a loaded week. I know you guys on Texan Live had a great slate of games, headlined by North Shore.
You can't even say headline because there's so many bangers across the seat.
I'll say it. She's like putting on her producer's hat. Atascocita and North Shore, that to me is the game of the week. That's a
Live
great
on Texan
game.
Live.
Yep.
I really like Longview Pine Tree and Tyler Chapel Hill. I think that's a really good matchup. Mid-County Madness between PNG and Nederland. It's always really, really good. Battle of the Lakes, Lake Travis and Austin Westlake down there.
Everybody in town shows up for that game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just a stacked week overall.
Really,
everywhere you look, every corner of the state, there is a box office matchup.
You can't get a ticket anymore, but you can watch the game on Texan Live between Galena Park, North Shore, and Humble Atascocita. It's sold out. It is sold out. Your only option, like if you want to watch that game now, is to stream it.
I think Austin Westlake and Lake Travis are sold out too.
That's also a Texan Live joint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're all Texan Live joints.
Yeah.
Like Longview Pine Tree and Tyler Chapel Hill you can catch on there. Mid-County Madness. We've got Pearland and Alvin Shadow Creek also on Texan Live, which I think is really fun because that's for the district match or the district title there.
So behind the scenes, peeling back the curtain, we like to do that sometimes. We film this on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Posted on Thursdays. We're hours away from Denton Guyer getting ready to take on Little Elm. Not necessarily a marquee matchup because I think Denton Guyer's about to stomp Little Elm, but they're about to play. So like some of the players that we're talking about now, you're going to get maybe a chance to watch.
Yes. The thing about Denton Guyer is, so they have 2 losses on the season, and one of those was to Coppell.
Yep.
Which to me, I think Coppell has sealed that district title there. Denton Guyer will play Louisville next week.
I'll be there.
Are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there, yeah. I'm excited about that. I've had that game circled for a long time. I almost got out of the gate and watched Guyer versus Alito. We sent Carter Yates went and actually beat me on calling dibs on that game at the beginning of the season, so I went towards the end of the year. But I think I picked a good game, right? Like the Louisville Guyer games.
Yeah. Oh my God! Talk about like winning in the trenches too. Like Louisville's offensive line with Michael Fasusi, and then Denton Guyer's defensive line with Xavier Ukponu. Ukponu. I think I said it correctly.
Ukponu. It's tough. Xavier, we're sorry. You know I've interviewed you a lot. I know you're listening to this. I know I'm going to get all my friends over at Guyer to make sure that we have correctly said his name. And 100 times you guys have told me how to pronounce it and how to say it, but I still get in and flub it up every single time. And I meant like my face is turning red. I don't know. You can probably notice it. My face is turning red because I wanted to 100% go back and look at my notes from when I was at Guyer, and I like had him do the pronunciation key for me, and I wrote it down. And I know I nailed it on our video interview, but I came into this like, oh yeah, I got it, no problem. I forgot to look.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you know anything about me, I am awful at pronouncing names. I always have been. I don't know what it is. I'm just really bad.
Well, he's really good
at pronouncing, and he is very good.
Yeah, he's very talented. I guess we'll transition.
Let's go ahead. Yeah, let's go ahead and start off with
we're going to do Guyer first.
Yeah, and let's start off with obviously their monster of a defensive line. I mean, it's not just Xavier Ukponu too. They got 2 class of 2027 kids, Zane Rowe and Kyron Haywood there.
Right.
Unbelievable defensive line talent. and young talent too. I mean, we'll start off with Ukponu there. I think he's an awesome player. He's committed to Wisconsin, which I think is a great pick for him, because if you know anything about Wisconsin and the Big Ten, they are fantastic at developing offensive and defensive linemen to become great NFL players.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he is a team leader. That's what I love about him more than anything. Like, he's a guy that you can depend on to show up every day to the weight room, to be a team leader, to help develop the younger players. But he's plenty talented himself. And as a matter of fact, he came up in a Denton Guyer program behind some other top-tier defensive linemen who kind of showed him the ropes. And I love that about his game. I think Wisconsin's getting a steal in him, because he uses his hands as well or better than any other defensive lineman in the state. He's almost like a college-ready guy from that standpoint. He understands the nuances of the position, and that's immediately known. Like, you can go to a game, and if you kind of know what you're doing from a scouting perspective, you can see that he has worked on the small details or the craft of the position. Another thing that he does extremely well is he's listed as he's a taller defensive tackle, around 6'2".
6'2", yeah.
But he plays with tremendous leverage and pad level, which is tough to do. The taller you get, the tougher that is to do, and he's tremendous at that. So Wisconsin's dipped into Texas and gotten themselves a steal, a guy that had over 20 scholarship offers at the time he committed to the Badgers. And I think that Luke Fickell did a really good job in evaluating this young man, because he's not only going to be bringing it on defense, he's going to be bringing it every day. And that's important, especially as you're trying to build up a program, because that's still a new program to him. This is, basically Fickell's a young coach he's not a young coach. He's a young coach as his tenure is related
at Wisconsin.
His tenure
he
is related
came from Cincinnati,
to Wisconsin.
2 years ago? So this is only
he was
his
like
second
the
year, I think,
interim
at
coach
Wisconsin.
at Ohio State for a year too. So and he played at Ohio State, but
so he knows Big Ten
understands
ball,
defense.
Knows what to look for,
great defensive coordinator, and I trust his evaluation here.
Yeah, I think so too. And then Zane Rowe too, 2027 defensive lineman. He's an Oklahoma committed to Oklahoma over. Man, like 25 plus offers or something like that. He had them all. I saw Penn State on there. I mean, what makes this kid so special? And how is he going to develop in the next couple of years? Well,
he's a tremendous athlete who brings some pass rushing qualities to the table that are rare. You kind of mentioned the Louisville game. Well, at the Under Armour camp, Fasusi and Zane Rowe went after one another.
Yes.
So, they were...
Box office.
Yeah. So, the table has already been set. There's, a little bit of a rivalry there between those two already. And, of course, Michael Fasusi at Louisville is rated as one of the top prospects in the entire state.
And also a Oklahoma commit.
Also an Oklahoma commit. So, that is going to be... absolutely thrilling to watch. But I think there's an argument to be made for Rowe, because he always works out at tight end too. So whenever he was starting to burst onto the scene, he is. So I'm curious as to, and you're not going to get a straight answer out of Zane on this. I've tried to pin him down a couple of times, hey, what's the best fit in college? What are you going to play? He's leaving it open-ended right now, because he does have over 2 years of high school ball left to play. He's a young player, already made it, a P4 level commitment. But he's not clear, I think, or doesn't want to clear the table on what position fits him best, because he's probably trying to decide that for himself. Well, good news for Zane Rowe and Sooners fans, he could be equally... He
could be either.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be... he would be equally rated highly at either position. So, there's not he could be... He's going to be a top 10 prospect in the state, whether he's a tight end or a defensive end.
So no shortage of talent is what you're saying on the defensive side of the ball for the Wildcats.
No, and Kyron Haywood's a dude I love.
Kyron Haywood's awesome. He's got multiple Division I offers.
Oh my gosh, and he passes the eyeball test. I went to Guyer's game last year right out of the gate, and he was the first prospect I noticed.
Was that against Aledo?
It was against Aledo, and I can't remember if it was game 1 or game 2, but it was very early in the season. And I thought he was an upperclassman, and he was just a freshman. And at that time, no one had heard of Kyron Haywood yet. So it was cool to be there day one to kind of see his development and see how he's turned into a top-tier prospect, because this spring, during the evaluation period, things started popping off for Kyron Haywood. It seemed like every camp he went to, he was picking up scholarship offers, and now he has an elite scholarship list already. He's got all the heavy hitters on there, and basically gets to choose. Where do I want to go to college? That's a cool thing in and of itself.
I know.
We don't ever
That
get to talk about
young, too.
NIL stuff, but just even that you get to pick which college that you want to go to is cool. And he has the academics to back it up, which makes more offers come in.
Oh, absolutely. He's a dude. The entire defensive line are just full of dudes. But let's flip it to the offensive side of the ball, and we'll start there at the helm in quarterback Kevin Sperry. 2025 kid. He's an Oklahoma commit. The interesting thing to me about Kevin Sperry is that he started off at Prosper Rock Hill his sophomore year. He decided to transfer to a high school in Oklahoma called Carl Albert High School.
In the Oklahoma City area. Now he's back in Texas, and he's leading the Denton Guyer Wildcats. And he kind of reminds me of Jackson Arnold a little bit. Yeah, I like that comparison. He's different than Arnold to me. I mean, Arnold, I feel like, had that elite top-end arm
strength is, definitely.
Even watching the game this week, when Arnold came in for relief in the South Carolina game, I noticed that Arnold's arm strength was superior to Michael Hawkins, where Michael Hawkins is a little bit more athletic.
Of a running style quarterback.
And Hawkins can throw it around, but you could definitely see the arm strength difference between those two. Watching them play the same game on the same field back to back. Arnold has elite arm talent. The thing I like most about Sperry is that he's a proven winner. He went up to Oklahoma. He captured a state championship while he was up there. Then he came back, and things are starting to now click in the Denton Guyer offense. I mean, there's no weeks off.
No.
When you're Denton Guyer.
No.
You have to come right in and compete. They had Alito right out of the gates, and every week is going to be a test for them, and Sperry has to be on his A game each and every week. He's a good ball distributor. He can get the ball out to all the weapons, and they got a couple of other good weapons to feed the rock too. Corbin Glasgow.
Love Corbin Glasgow.
Yeah, he is a speed demon. Really, he's really explosive. He really gets off the line.
Yes. What I really like about him and what I noticed by watching his tape is that he's a deep ball threat.
For sure.
But he can also be utilized in the short passing game because his yards after catch ability is insane.
Yeah, unbelievable. He was going to be looked at as a slot wide receiver because of his size, but he's explosive in the slot.
Yeah.
He gets good separation in the phone booth, really tight quarters. He can create that. You have to respect his ability to beat you deep, so you have to give him some cushion, which really plays into both his strengths and Sperry's strengths, who can feed him the football, underneath and pick up some of those easy high percentage pass plays that keeps the Denton Guyer offense on schedule, opens things up so that, at the end of the day, although they possess great quarterbacks and have a good offensive scheme and all that kind of stuff, they're a run-based offense. They love to run the ball, and that is the key to their offensive success, I feel like. Because, like I said, even though they've had these guys, at the end of the day, if you can't line up and run the ball, then you're going to struggle at the 6A level. And that's a good combination. I also like DJ Reese. Eric Reese, he goes by DJ. I think he's an exciting young player, already has an offer from UNLV, and passes the eyeball test as well. Very similar qualities, actually, to Glasgow. So they have two of those weapons within their offensive scheme.
Yeah, a really, really fun player to watch. I want to go back to the defensive side of the ball because I wanted to talk about Caden Cobbs.
Let's do it.
Safety. I was thinking about it, and I was like, no. Let's go back to the defense.
We weren't going to get out of here without talking about Cobbs. I can promise you that.
Caden Cobbs. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because his older brother played at Denton Guyer, Kadrick Cobbs, who was a running back.
And a DCTF favorite.
He is a beast. He played at UTSA for a couple years, and now he transferred to Bryant University back in December of 2023. So still doing good things at the college level there. But his younger brother, Caden Cobbs, really, really one heck of a defensive player.
And I really like his highlight tape from this season because last year he kind of burst onto the scene playing safety, but he was a bigger bodied safety, a thumper. And you quickly noticed, when somebody's 6'1", 200 pounds playing safety, you notice them, even at the highest levels of Texas high school ball. And Caden has now spun down to play linebacker. I actually thought that he was going to kick over and play running back this year. In the spring, he was doing a lot of running back stuff.
Yeah, he plays both sides.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well, maybe the future for him is running back. I still love what he's bringing to the table on the defensive side of the ball. He shows good ability to get off on the edge and get downhill in a hurry to create havoc and make plays behind the line of scrimmage. But he's got tremendous frame potential, which I think that, like, by this time next year, you're talking about a kid that's 6'1", 220 pounds, and is, being quartered by all the top dogs. He's already got a really good offer list that he's put together. But he quickly passes the eyeball test, and just in general is a pleasure to cover. So I like Caden Cobbs a lot.
So could be is a free safety, but could play in multiple. I'm going to call him a linebacker. You're going to call him a linebacker?
I'm going to officially change my stance on him to linebacker based on what I've seen out of his development this season. Maybe I can make the final call next week, like whenever I get to watch him in person. But I'm going to call him a linebacker for now with maybe running back potential. But he's like a guy that runs over 20 miles per hour in pads. They track that stuff, so he can run. So he's fun. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. A lot of great players in all classes for the Denton Guyer Wildcats, and should be a pretty easy dub for them this week against Little Elm. But like we said earlier, next week,
the dub column.
Yeah, next week's going to be for second place in that district against Louisville. So
shout out
to
my homies over on the Guyer coaching staff too. They do a tremendous job over there.
Coach Reedheim is awesome.
Yeah, he joined us for the recruiting seminar at Frisco. Kyle Keese over there in the strength and conditioning program does a great job. And I want to name all you guys, but I also got to give a shout out to recruiting coordinator Mike Gallegos, who is always welcoming us in with open arms and making sure that we have the content that we need. Yeah.
We love Denton Guyer, and they're very close too.
Yeah.
So just right up the road.
Right down the street from your house, probably.
Yep. You know what else is kind of right down the street from my house? The Mean Green.
I'm not going to say it. You say it.
God.
There it is. I can't say it.
I can't. I know it's a little biased, but I went there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I studied there for 4 years. Like, they're my team, so I gotta throw up the talon every once in a while we talk about them. But okay.
And it's a good year. Like, this is a good year. Chandler Morris has got that offense clicking on all cylinders. I know that the Memphis game is a tough pill to swallow. That was a great game.
It was such a fun game and being a UNT fan, it's hard to admit, but it was a lot of fun to watch Seth Hennigan, former Denton Ryan quarterback, take on this really, really strong UNT team. I just had a lot of fun. Chandler Morris played really well. He threw for like 400 yards. On the other hand, Seth Hennigan played really, really well for Memphis. So it was just a really fun game to watch with two former Texas high school football quarterbacks who actually competed against each other too in high school. Denton Ryan and Highland Park.
There's no doubt that we should give credit to the UNT coaching staff before we dive into their recruits, because this, from the outside looking in, I don't cover specifically college football here at DCTF. I cover more of the players who you need to know that will be transitioning from high school into college, the top stars, so to speak. Yeah. And I do watch a fair amount of college ball, especially in-state college ball. And heading into this season, I didn't think that with the turnover that they had, right?
Yes.
This was a gargantuan task to get all these guys onto the same page. Not only to go into the season, but to continue to keep them clicking on all cylinders. Chandler Morris didn't even get there until the summertime.
And that was an interesting situation, because I remember when his dad, Chad Morris, took the wide receivers coach job at Texas State. And I thought about it, and I was like, I don't know, is it possible that like he could follow his dad? Because at that point, Texas State had already lost TJ Finley. And so I think that was even before Jordan McLeod came in. So they were kind of hunting around for a quarterback as well.
And
it fits, So when we learned that he actually arrived on campus, Chandler Morris, it was a good day. And now I can take a breath of fresh air, because Chandler Morris is that dude.
He's also extremely fun to watch, just like he was in high school. There's a reason why he was a 4-star, because he brings those qualities to the table that just
puts him over the edge.
You can prep for him, but his ability to improvise is second to none.
Yes.
And that
100%.
really makes UNT fun to watch. But outside of that, the job that they've been doing up front on both lines has been really impressive because it's hard to get. And like, I know it was a score fest, and that's going to be the case in a lot of these games, I feel like, with UNT. But both of those offenses were really good in that Memphis game. They both could score points basically at will. And sometimes in these games, it's going to be about, can you get the ball last? And if I get the ball last, there's nobody I'd rather have, I feel like, right now than Chandler Morris. And that's even more so than like Quinn Ewers for me, right? Like, I know that Quinn Ewers is going to be a high draft pick and all that. He was the number one player in the DCTF prospect rankings. But if I had to pick one guy right now, like games on the line, fourth quarter, I got to do a 2-minute drive. Who do I feel like can like put those plays together? I mean, I'd probably pick Chandler. Maybe I'll get shredded in the comments for. I don't think so, but
I completely agree with you. I mean, I think
that's how I feel.
I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I think that you say that he could be, one of the best quarterbacks in his conference. Seth Hennigan's
up there, too.
Seth Hennigan's probably going to win those votes for the, like all conference selections and all that, but Chandler Morris.
Yeah, because wins in the win column definitely translates.
Yeah, that was a big game for them.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Now let's talk about their recruiting class. They've got some good commitments. What are they up to, about 10?
Yeah, I think so. Gosh, where do we want to start? Shall we keep it with the quarterback train?
Okay.
We can talk about my dude, Chris Jimerson, North Crowley quarterback, who I know we talked about this before when we talked about TCU, but he was at one time a TCU commit.
And I think he made a good decision to flip.
I think he made a good decision to flip, too. And the reason that he flipped is because he wanted to play quarterback in college. TCU wanted him as a wide receiver, which fair enough. So he flipped to North Texas. Now he's going to be playing quarterback. He brings a different kind of dynamic to the UNT offense than Chandler Morris does, because he can make plays with his feet as well.
The comparisons are there, though.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Chandler Morris coming out of high school was plenty athletic, did a lot of things on the ground. You have to respect him as a runner, right?
Yes.
What I've noticed about Jimerson from covering their games this year is that he has been trying to be much more of a pass-first guy. He is a dynamic runner, especially in the open field.
If he gets a ton of yards on the ground,
if he gets a little bit of space, he's really going to take off. But I feel like as a thrower that he's going to go through the progressions. He's not a guy who naturally just wants to pull the rock down and like make things happen on the ground. Now, as he transitions into college, that'll be something to watch, because sometimes when you're a great runner, your instincts basically tell you when things are breaking down in the pocket or you're feeling a lot of pressure, go, right? Like you got to go, you got to get out. And I like that right now, as he's processing things, he doesn't have happy feet in the pocket. He stays in the pocket. He goes through his progressions. Then he runs, or it's a design run for him to really pick up chunk yardage, right? Like it's not something that he's doing all the time on his own. And I like that about his game. And the reason why I think he made a smart decision to flip from TCU to UNT and play quarterback is because of that progression, and because he does, in a lot of ways, remind me of a guy like a Chandler Morris, who's just so much fun to watch and brings all these different qualities to the table. And oh, by the way, it's not bad to have a pipeline into North Crowley.
No, not at all. I mean, heck yeah.
They got tons of talent there. They signed Mason Ferguson last year.
Yep.
And they have Chris Jimerson this year, and I think that's something that you'll continue to see UNT try to exploit in the future is continue to bring in guys from North Crowley to Denton.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Chris Jimerson. Obviously, we broadcast most of their games on Texan Live each week, and it's always really fun to watch him and see him develop, into that quarterback spot.
I bet you they're trying to get Daniel Bray too. As a running back over there who's one of the fastest guys in the state. I think he's like a sub 10.4 100-meter guy, and he's transferred there from Abilene Cooper. So just a name maybe to know.
Or maybe Gibson.
Yeah. Quentin Gibson, his recruitment has blown up.
Oh, I know.
Good luck, UNT.
Yeah, I know that. But we can hope.
Yeah,
right?
You can hope.
Side eye it.
No matter, I don't know. You could probably give 100 calls. I don't know if that's going to influence Quentin Gibson at this point.
Probably not. But anyways, let's stick with the offensive side of the ball. Talk about I think I'm going to classify him as my favorite player in the entire state.
Okay.
That's Jacobe.
I was going to give you a
Mansfield wide receiver / athlete, because I've seen him play in person, and he played on both sides of the ball and played very well on both sides of the ball.
When I talked to him after the game, he said that UNT's pitch to him was like he could come in and play both ways.
And I think
I made
that's
the joke
very
a little bit
attractive
like Travis
to
Hunter
Yes.
type things, because when he committed to UNT, he had an offer from TCU.
Right.
So he's a P4 level recruit
Definitely.
who decided to go with UNT. One, he said because of the relationships. And two, he loved that pitch or the opportunity to think about playing on either side of the ball. And that's rare. I don't want to get like UNT's fans' hopes up that they have a guy that's going to be coming in and doing like Travis Hunter stuff.
Right.
What I like about that, though, is that he has the opportunity to fit in where he's most needed.
Yes.
And where he can probably get on the field the fastest. I just love him on offense.
I do too.
I can't get over the fact that I want the football in his hands. He's very explosive. And we talked about
and you've seen him in person too. We've both.
I went to the Mansfield game one week, and then you went to the Mansfield game like the next week. And going into that, I was like, you're going to love Jacobe Hayes.
Right. And the thing about Jacobe Hayes, so he had 3 I went to the Crowley game when they played Crowley. He had 3 touchdowns.
He also had 3 touchdowns in the game I went to.
Offense. Okay, hold on. He actually might have had 4. I think he had 4
Don't
in the
ruin
Crowley
this
game.
bit.
No, I think he did have 4 in that game. So he's very explosive. Colin Kennedy was also at that game. Good friend of the program.
Sooners Illustrated.
And he was telling us that he got to watch Mansfield play. Oh, I can't remember for the life of me. It might have been. It was Mesquite Horn, and Jacobe Hayes went off in that game. So this dude is consistently producing big time numbers week after week after week. And I was just so impressed, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but he matched up with Tay Ellis, Crowley's 2027 star receiver there, 4-star receiver. Played him pretty well too. I'm just really impressed with him as an athlete overall on both sides of the ball.
No doubt about it. If I had a gun to my head and I had to pick the number 1 player in this class, which I do. I do have to pick the number 1 player in this class.
You do. That's part of your job.
At the end of the day, I do. Right now, for me, it's Hayes, based on his senior development. And he's got good speed. He's very explosive. He's right there for me with Chris Jimerson at the top of this class.
Those are 2 of my favorites.
It's going to be hard to pick. The difference is like Chris Jimerson is a top 10 quarterback in the state. We got him rated number 10. And Jacobe Hayes is probably not going to be in the top 30. Wide receivers are like right around that, which talks to the depth of the wide receiver position here in Texas.
Yes.
Like you're talking 85 names who are all like FBS level guys.
So many of them.
It's crazy to think about the talent that we have here, especially at the skill positions.
Well, and then another wide receiver commit that UNT picked up in the 2025 class is Tyler Brown from Aubrey.
Yep.
I really like. Now you've seen him in person, correct?
7-on-7.
7-on-7. Okay, same thing. I was talking to Carter about that, and Carter said he was really impressed with me. He's got a lot of speed, and that to me, I think, is what stood out to me the most when watching his film. And I asked you, I was like, before we started recording this, I was like, okay, so is he a route runner, or is it more of just like the hey, go long, kind of a go route type of thing? And you were like, he doesn't really need to run any routes. Like he's going to outrun anyone he matches up with.
But he shows off some of his ability to shift gears and stuff like that in the jet sweep game, or the reverse game, picking up screen passes, return game, that kind of stuff. So he shows off some of that stuff. But honest truth, he just needs to run by you right now. When he's playing for Aubrey, he doesn't really have to work that hard on running a slant or a dig or anything like that. He's just going to run.
Don't need to get fancy with it.
Hey son, you just run and we'll throw you the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think he's a good fit in at the slot receiver position at UNT, and he's a legit speed demon, like 10.4 100-meter time. So he's one of the fastest guys in this class, regardless of position. So that's a huge get from UNT, because there's there's really 2 things. You can't coach size and you can't coach speed.
Nope.
You can coach a little bit of speed in the track program and stuff, but once they get to college, they're fast or they're not fast, and he's fast.
Yes, I like.
I want to ask you about the linebackers.
Dude, there's 40 of them committed in this class.
This is like a sneaky good linebacker class.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to try and name all of them off the top of my head here.
Okay. No notes.
All right, no notes.
No notes,
now, we don't do
Hartley.
the show with notes.
Yeah.
No notes. Okay, I don't know if we'll go that far. Okay, so we've got Mansfield legacy linebacker Jaden Manning.
Yep.
Freak. He's huge. He's like, if I can remember this, he's like 6'1", 215. And I told you beforehand, I was like, so he also gets snaps on both sides of the ball. He plays running back a little bit. If he was a tight end, like,
you'd be happy with that?
I mean, he's scary. I mean, he's a ball player. He's
a dude. Workhorse type of player.
He's a workhorse. Yeah. You see him on the field, and you're like, that's a man amongst boys out there. I mean, you can tell. And
Legacy's a program that's been making players for a while. Like, they've been sending players to college for a long time.
Right, and I feel like, just going off on a Mansfield rant here, Mansfield Legacy kind of does fall under the radar because you have programs like Lake Ridge and Mansfield who consistently produce players, but now I feel like Legacy is kind of on that rise a little bit and kind of meeting those two
Mansfield's
those two teams
that district
there.
where they go like this, right? Like one, depending on where you get districted at.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's Mansfield Summit, and sometimes it's Mansfield, sometimes it's Legacy, and sometimes it's Lake Ridge. Like they're always ebbing and flowing based on where the talent is. They all produce talent. But agreed 100%. Yes. Like Legacy is the school that I think right now is a little bit overlooked, but they've been like in the playoff mix and producing
definitely
like Jalen Catalan and some other guys that they produce over there at Legacy.
Definitely loaded with talent. That district's always loaded with talent. So then you've got Brenden Reese too, the linebacker from Longview. And then
going to keep it in Longview with this next
We're going to keep it in Longview. Longview Pine Tree linebacker Seth McFarland also committed to UNT. And then let's round it out and go down to Nederland. We've already talked about Nederland this week. They've got a big game against P&G this week. And now talk about Albert Simon. 4 really elite linebackers that the Mean Green were able to pick up in this class.
They're all mean.
They're all mean.
That's the one thing 100% that I can tell you. Watch any of these tapes. These guys are mean. They play with the nasty disposition. But what they all also possess is a good frame and the size to take on ball carriers, right? They're all over 200 pounds. They're all
over
thick,
6 foot, right?
Yeah,
I believe
they're
so.
all
right
thick-bodied guys. And they're really looking to restock the linebacker core. And one of the commitments that I really noticed, UNT got out of the gate slow in this recruiting cycle, but as summer ended and we started to turn the page to the season, you started to see these commitments start to roll in pretty quick. Reese just committed a couple weeks ago, so he's like one of the newest commitments. Yes. Him and Tyler Brown. And I feel like his commitment went under the radar a little bit because Taylor Tatum was the star of the Longview show. Now he plays for OU. He was the number 1 rated running back in the state last year, already getting carries as a freshman. And they had some good defensive pieces on that team, but Brenden Reese has been the model of consistency for John King on the defensive side of the ball. He always plays under control. He's dependable. He shows up every week, and he rarely misses a tackle. He's a really good tackler, and that's what I really like about his game. And I feel like sometimes those qualities don't pop on tape as much, or you can't appreciate them as much. But if you go watch Brenden,
you got to go see him.
If you go watch Brenden Reese in person, you're going to know that dude is like what's making this defense go. Right.
Okay, well, let's stay in Longview. Talk about Seth McFarland. This is a fantastic week to watch him play.
Yep.
And it's going to be on Texan Live. Because like we mentioned earlier, Longview Pine Tree is playing Tyler Chapel Hill. If you know anything about Tyler Chapel Hill, they like to run the ball.
And they have Ricky Stewart.
So I would like to see how Seth McFarland handles Powerhouse and Ricky Stewart at running back. I'm going to be real interested to see that matchup there.
Me too, because Ricky Stewart loves to keep the ball in the middle of the field. And guess what? That's where Seth
exactly where Seth McFarland
That's where
goes.
he lives.
That's where he lives.
So he lives in the middle of the field, and I'm going to give Stewart a clear advantage in the speed department, but in the size and like thumping department, Seth McFarland is one of those guys who shows up every week. He's a big hitter.
Yeah.
And if he gets a chance to tee off on Ricky Stewart, who's been dealing with some injuries over the last few weeks, could that be a game-changing play or a game-changing moment? It only takes one of those big plays to maybe completely change a game, and they're definitely going to have to lean on Seth McFarland to play well in that game, I think, to have a chance to pull it off. I really like the addition. One of the things that jumped out to me about this class right off the bat, as we've been tracking it, commitment by commitment, was the quality of linebackers, what they're bringing to the table, and just that unit as a whole is one of the best, regardless of whether you're a P4 school or whatever in the state. Like, UNT's done a tremendous job at that position.
And being able, especially this year, being able to compete in the American, I know that they have been able to compete in years past, but it feels like this year they're kind of turning that table. You know, UTSA is a little bit down this year. They were able to compete with one of the best teams last week in Memphis. They have Tulane this week. They have Army the next. Like, this is the time to show out, right? And convince these commits, like, hey, we're not to be messed with. Like, if you're going to come to UNT, we're going to win.
And then save some spots for some transfer guys too.
Because
one of the things that I've noticed that they've done a good job of is maintaining and building those relationships.
Yes.
Right out of the gate, I feel like with the hiring of Justin Owens that UNT did, whenever
he's been great.
It was a shot across the bow, basically saying like, look, we need to bring something different to the table here. We need to have some energy. We need to know who some of these under the radar guys are, and maintain those relationships throughout their not only recruitment but throughout their college careers, because you don't know what's going to come back, right? Like, you don't know who's going to be hitting the transfer portal or when, and what type of relationships that you have with those players is very important when they hit the portal. Because if they don't trust you or don't feel like they can step into a situation where that they can play right away, then you're not really going to have a chance to land them, or you're going to be behind the 8 ball in those recruitments. And it's a little bit tougher to convince someone to come play at a Conference USA school in Denton than it may be at a P4 school like TCU that's in Fort Worth. You know,
I know.
American. It's hard to keep track of.
It is very hard to keep track.
Don't blame me so much, but thank you.
I don't blame you. You're welcome.
I would never even notice. Like, I never even noticed that. Like,
no, and there's so much realignment of conferences now, and it gets all jumbled in my head. You know, I feel like ever since I was there, they've been in Conference USA. So to me, I feel like it's just ingrained in my head that they're Conference USA. And then I'm like, no, we're playing Tulane now.
Well, if it happens every year, like last year was so many players went out and so many players came in. Yeah. Is that the now of college football? Is that going to happen for UNT every year? It's a really tough job if the answer to that is yes. So you have to be able to combat that in some way. And I just feel like what they've done this year is a blueprint for success that may need to be reciprocated again next year, or recycled again next year, because you might have to do it again. But as a UNT fan, what product's going to be on the field year to year is going to be drastically different, because this team's so much different than last year's version.
Oh my gosh, it's so different. Like, it's just like night and day. And I remember I'm guilty of this. Like, when we started getting all of this news about all of these players transferring out of UNT and entering the portal, I kind of freaked out a little bit. I was like, what's going on? But they did an unbelievable job of bringing in key players and really making this a dynamic team altogether.
Restocking. They restocked it, but it's important to have this high school base. Yep. Right. It's important 100%. To have double-digit numbers from the high school ranks of guys that you know that you can play and that you can develop them, because those are the guys that you're hopeful will be the foundations of what you build around. And I think they've got a good start for this class.
I think so too. And I'll be there.
There you
Saturday.
go.
It's our homecoming
and I'll be
game
here
against
next
Tulane.
Well, the game's actually in Louisville.
So
I'll be in Louisville to watch. Yeah, I'll be here.
In Louisville.
But I'm looking forward to that tilt between Denton Guyer and Louisville, and I know that you're looking forward to seeing UNT play in person this week.
I just love Denton. Denton as a whole, it's fantastic. So good week to talk about one of my favorite places in the state, in Denton, Texas.
Yeah, this was for the Hart.
This was for the Hart. And for the hustle too. You'll see Denton.
This was a Hart dedicated episode.
It was. It really was. It always is though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Probably. You are the producer.
What are you thinking about for next week? Also, are you going to the game this week?
Oh, yeah. This week, tomorrow I'll be at Garland Lakeview Centennial.
Okay.
And then Friday, Prosper and Allen, which is a huge matchup, too.
Huge.
That's for the district. That's for the
definitely
district championship.
The district championship.
So that'll be a fun game to watch.
Prosper has not lost a game since Austin Westlake, correct?
Correct. And Allen's undefeated, putting up some big monster offensive numbers. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to that game. Stay tuned. I think there's going to be some big news coming soon out of that game. A little teaser. Okay.
Stay tuned right here. Hart and Hustle. I'll be going to Waxahachie and Dallas Skyline tomorrow.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. So you get to not only see Texas commit Elijah Barnes,
but
you get to see some of the top tier underclassmen in the state because Waxahachie's loaded.
Kids. Yeah.
Jerry Meyer III, Cohen Brown, Jaquan Snell. Waxahachie's got those guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It should be a lot of fun. We'll get some highlights for Texas football tonight. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Keep it locked right here every week, Thursday, 2 p.m. Hart and Hustle.
I'm the Hart.
I'm the Hustle.